Let's head to West Africa now, where the International Monetary Fund has approved a $3 billion bailout programme aimed at boosting Ghana's economy. The country has been battling its worst economic crisis in a generation. It's been hit by soaring inflation, high debt and a devaluing currency. But the country was once one of the continent's rising economic stars as a major global producer of commodities like gold and cocoa. So what exactly went wrong? Well, let's speak now to Bright Simons, who's a Ghanaian entrepreneur and business analyst and joins us now. Thank you for being with us. Let me put that question to you first of all. What went wrong with the big economic dream that Ghana was doing pretty well?
Well, it all starts with how Ghana became a rising star, and that was sometime in 2006. It got one of the biggest debt relief packages ever. The second largest in Africa, actually. $4.5 billion of its debt was wiped out, nearly 75% of its entire debt stock. That meant that it could all of a sudden borrow from international capital markets. It also discovered oil in 2007 and started producing in 2010. Combining all of those revenues together meant it could invest in large infrastructure projects, which then transformed the fortunes of the country. So that is how Ghana became a rising star. Unfortunately, we borrowed too much, until eventually in 2014, it had to turn to the IMF for a bailout. That bailout simply allowed it to go back to the capital markets and borrow even more. So by 2019, thereabouts, it was starting to spend more than 60% of all its income, government income, domestic income, on servicing that debt. And by 2022, when this crisis hit, 75% or more of all government income was now going to servicing debt. So that's how Ghana fell from grace.
And associated the terms of this latest bailout, this $3 billion bailout from the IMF, there are some demands for reforms. What will they look like?
Number one is debt restructuring. The country has to be put on the path to debt sustainability. So that means that by 2028, you should be spending less than 20% of government income servicing debt. To do that, it needs to restructure its debts. It needs to go to its creditors and say, I can't pay you what I used to pay you. I want you to accept less. It's done some of that on the domestic market. About 40% of the domestic debt stock has now been restructured. It has to start to do that with international creditors. And that's where the challenge lies, because they may not take the cuts that the government is proposing.
Yeah.
The second thing it needs to do.
I wanted to ask you that, actually. There are some pretty tough choices coming down the line. Do you expect that they will be made? The difficult decisions will be enacted?
Some of them, the government has started to make them. The less popular ones, I think, are the challenge, because some are linked to the government's re-election next year. Typically, in Ghanaian politics, during election years, the government spends large amount of money on infrastructure. It may not be able to do this. The question is whether it will abide by the agreement to restrain spending. And that is where the doubts remain.
It's so interesting to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. Bright Simons there, policy analyst at Imani, a think tank based in Accra.